Ladies and gentlemen, if you look at my face, this is called the tired because of my thesis, but I am taking a little bit of time off to make you guys this video just to show you guys how to do the ArcDim X3s with what I wouldn't call a budget, but a way on how to do it and the explanation of what you should be looking for. So let's start with some core mechanics. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but going to take out the most specific parts that you need to take into account. It has high critical resistance. Now note that down, people, that's important. And attack ignores target's damage reduction effect, so P toughness will not work. Crit resistance increases as the difficulty rises with a maximum up to 500. And then we have this thing called the Blaze Spiral, where he just twirls out around everything, and there's a gimmick to this, but you want to have something that's called high accuracy rate. So there's an artifact that really does help you with it if you take something like a warrior. Then for the Zeta one, it says it gains immunity to damage, boost, taking effects, blah 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 blah, high critical resistance. What again? Yes, and it's 500 once again. This is once again noted down, very important. And also once again, damage reduction effects will not help. Toughness does not help, ladies and gentlemen. Now do take into account that the Meteor Prison of Extinction will drop your heal rate to 100%. This is also very important because you have a few characters that will be interesting for this run. Right, ladies and gentlemen, let's start off with Claws, which is probably the best tank for the physical department. And there's a gimmick to it, and that is the Golden Mask of the Ancient. If the boss does the Beyblade and he hits the Golden Mask of the Ancient and not any other characters aside of it, it will stop spinning. Then we got another neat kicker, and that is this thing. It says reduces hit enemies all crit resistance by 500. Yay, for 10 seconds. So the whole boss gimmick with having 500 critical resistance up in the building will get negated, which means you don't have to over crit commit onto any of your characters. But what should you build on him? Lots of physical defense, one physical or block defense up to 200 if you could, and then a lot of physical block to allow us to survive. P toughness, however, does not work, so if I had to rerun this thing, it would have been a physical block defense if he did not get to survive. As for the Transcendence perk, allowing yourself to get a little bit more P block chance for the duration of the skill. That is pretty neat. Attack reductions do work, so overall it allows your team to survive just a little bit better. As for Estelle, another support and get a high physical block if you could. And the reason why she's really good is, one, she is amping up a lot of your damage dealers, but she gives a 300 physical block chance for the duration of the Tailwind. And then I take another support, which is Rahardna, because my Mediana is trash. She's probably the better one out of all of them. However, I take Rahardna anyway for one, lots of cooldown reduction on a pocket watch on some CDR3. Same build, once again, high P block defense if you have that possible. And for a build, more cooldown resets if necessary. And then for your main damage dealer, I said if it does the Beyblade, it ramps up his P block. But just to negate that, with a Judgment Light bracelet, you will have enough accuracy to not even worry about this at all. So if you run anything that is frontline physical damage dealer, that is not a DOK and not a Cecilia that will always hit, then you take this artifact. You could, however, on this current build, take something that does damage. Now for my magical team, I made my Lucikiel to A2. I will for it. Yes, I could not contain myself. It is all for you guys and for the vid. No, I couldn't contain myself. let's not get it twisted. And there's a very particular reason why I run him, because I got the hybrid book of animals. You can say to yourself, I cannot reproduce this team. Nobody in the hell builds Laios anymore. Well, here I am, and for two reasons why she's really good. For one, her unique weapon onto a 5-star will give you 20% more healing rate increase, which means that even if you get 100 stacks upon the boss, you will still keep healing regardless. As well as the fact that if you get this thing up to really high attack, it will grant your whole team magical defense, which will then increase your survivability overall. But in all fairness, if you cannot run this and have a good Jane, you could possibly just pop this one out and keep your Jane in there. For the boss, is very simple. Get yourself some magical block if necessary. This UT1 allows for the rest of the team to get more magical block up to 200. If you 5-star this, it will get up to 500, which means that you will not be getting any damage. And another key factor to this whole run would be Lavril. My Lavril is absolute caca, right? But the reason why she's good is the S1. Critical resistance down by 300. Like I said, as good as Claws is. Get that critical resistance down. As for building, lots of magical defense, a magical block to allow her to survive. And since my magical team is the weakest one of the two, this team is the one that receives all of the artifacts that will help me. Now since I do get one shot 9 out of 10 times at the start of the fight, I got myself a Heart of the Abyss that will allow me to live. However, if you use a Jane, then you could just go for Abyssal Breath, because the 2 highest attackers will then receive a little bit of extra. As for Baby Shay, now her kit makes no sense, but it does make sense. She needs way more attack speed to 100% uptime keep this, and a UT2 would be better because this way you get more mana, which means more healing and everything else. As for that build, we went with something completely different than what we normally do, and that is heal rate, MP increase, some non-hero damage because you need some attack boost increase, which means that Lias will actually give more magical defense, and then some mana per second and some attack speed. Because on Lucikiel we already have an overcrit commit, which means that we will 100% crit rate this stuff. Another factor that I have been taking into account, if you do want the rest of your team to do some critical damage, you could also think about removing a Lavril from the fray and get yourself a net. For 2 reasons. Onto the charge, you get an overcharge attack speed increase of the rest of your team. And on overcharge S2, you will get yourself 250 crit chance, which means the rest of the team will do some crits while they might not even have any percentage on that stuff. But without further ado, let's get to a run. So you might think, that Claws nearly died! Yeah, but after some point, if all of the skills are up, he barely gets any damage, and well, looking at that bleeding stack, we nearly died once again. But how can I make it? That is because of Estelle's Swan. If you do get enough cooldown reductions, this will never get to hurt you once again. And in combination with the A2 claws, well, this becomes a whole lot easier because for one, you get more physical defense on your main character. You get a lot more damage accordingly as well. And the rest of your characters are just there to allow you to survive. Twirling happens, Golden Mask procs, the thing just stops straight away. You don't have to worry about any of these dodge perks. And it ain't get those bleeding stacks in, and all that you need is a 1 Estelle front wind, and here you go, that is a dispel on all of that. Talk about Nate, shoot him! Here you go, hit the Golden Mask of the Ancient once again, cruising through this one without having any good artifacts on this. Get a straight Tailwind opener S1. Got all of those bleeding stacks out of the way, and this is why I love that cooldown reduction coming from Rahardna, because it will allow both your team to live and your team to do damage. Because the more arrows that I have on Selene, and the more damage that I do, and then more bleeding stacks. Got a S1 right off the bat, only 3 bleeding stacks left, and we kill this. This is the one where I always get to squeeze my butt cheeks. Because here's where I nearly die every single time. And then oh, we got the first kill in. Get ourselves a shield. And we get to live, ladies and gentlemen. Moment he opens up this skill, we barely get hit, but this will heal rate reduce us. And the faster you get these stacks down, that is right over here, he will get stunned and you will actually deal more damage to the dude. Know that Lucikiel has a pretty decent ramp up. At the start, he will not do as much damage, which will also have a little bit of proportional damage to his own face, which he cannot heal himself. However, if you can smirk him, there you go. This is about the best soul weapon in the game in terms of its statics. It feels so powerful. Yay! Nearly get all your character skill, but because of the magical block and the magical defense that is coming from Elias, you get to survive nonetheless. Get ourselves up there, get the shield down, pummel this dude's culo, and here we go, watch the show. And with Elias on our soul weapon A1, it will grant the whole team some magical block, which is necessary. And if you get it to A2, obviously more attack and even invincibility on her, which will allow you to do even better. Pummel this dude up to 33%, which will allow him to get into the next phase. Will also let him deal more damage to my nuts. However, we're still here. Soul weapon up, more defense coming out of Shay. Open up a skill, Elias, please. Here you go, pummel. Hit him. Hit him. Okay, and this is the last part where, like I said, he doesn't do as much damage. Even if he has 100% heal rate reduction stacks, we will not die regardless. And that is just because Elias. She is that one character that will allow you to keep up. Stun and hit him. Ooh. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is Swippy.